233 days. That's all Real Madrid gave him.
Breaking news out of La Liga, where Real Madrid has agreed to mutually part ways with first-team coach Xabi Alonso.
From one of the most anticipated managers of the decade to being thrown out after a Spanish Super Cup final. .24 points per game, the same as Hansi Flick, the man being praised as a genius at Barca during that same period. 13 wins in the first 14 matches.
You can really recognise the pressure that Xabi Alonso is under right now, because the wins are one thing. You're always going to be expected goals. You're always going to get wins as a Real Madrid manager. The quality that runs throughout your squad really does highlight as to why you are one of the best teams in world football. But it's the draws and the losses.
It's shown that they're beatable, that they're vulnerable. And that's what's more worrying about Real Madrid, rather than the guys up top coming together and fitting. It feels like a guy like Xabi Alonso, that he's going to be able to figure out.
But in the end, Xabi Alonso became nothing more than an outcast. Not because of the results, not because of the tactics, but because he collapsed under the weight of superstar egos. People thought the story was over for Xabi Alonso, that he would only be a one-season wonder coach with Bayer Leverkusen. But now, a crazy new chapter is opening for him.
Xabi Alonso is new Chelsea manager. Here we go.
Here we go. It's done. Xabi Alonso to Chelsea. Xabi Alonso to the Premier League is going down. We're here for it. We're excited. I think this Xabi Alonso move is the perfect move for Chelsea Football Club.
That FA Cup that Man City robbed from us today, they could shove it up there. Because the Premier League title is coming to Chelsea next season.
4 years. Manager. He arrived with an ultimatum. Full control over transfers or nothing at all.
So he has to have control, or an element of control that some managers haven't had. And he has to have a big sway in how the club has been run, certainly on field, and all big decisions with players. So he's stepping from almost the frying pan into the fire here, but as we've talked before, Chelsea is a big job. But you've got to make sure you're keeping the best players. So, there's no point Xabi Alonso coming in, you sell Cole Palmer, you sell Enzo Fernandez, you sell Caicedo. You've got to keep your big players, your core players, and build around that. But if you want to keep those big stars at your football club, you have to make a statement in terms of the manager. And to be fair, this is a statement.
People may say this is the story of a failed manager searching for a new home. But sit down, because I'm about to show you that this is a discarded diamond and Chelsea just picked it up.
Xabi Alonso comes in, everything's changing. Everything's changing, bro. Everything's changing. This new Xabi Alonso is a new era, honestly. It's a fresh of breath air for the Chelsea fans.
I'll say something as well. And I feel like how Xabi Alonso is coming into the club now, I feel like how he's bringing in his new coaching staff is going to bring in a new atmosphere, new talent, new things that we're able to see from this club. And you never know, maybe great things next season. Maybe great things will come for us.
They're lucky. Chelsea are very lucky that he's available at this time to get a manager like him to come and sort them out where they are in that chaotic vibe. They've got this manager at the perfect time for them, Chelsea.
Xabi Alonso did not become different by accident. He is a one-of-a-kind product forged from a top-secret project, trained by 4 of the greatest minds of the modern football era. Alonso's tactical DNA was programmed through the iron discipline and game-suffocating structure of Rafael Benitez at Liverpool. Then, Jose Mourinho threw him into the Bernabeu furnace, teaching him brutal lessons about managing million-dollar egos and surviving ruthless dressing room politics. At Real Madrid, he also absorbed the priceless soft power of Carlo Ancelotti, a leader who never ruled with fear, yet always made superstars willingly fight to exhaustion for him. Finally, Pep Guardiola arrived at Bayern Munich, upgrading Alonso's mind with the most advanced operating system in football, positional play and absolute control. Having inherited the most elite and extreme football legacies imaginable, Alonso refused to become anyone's copy. Instead, he fused them all together to create a manifesto entirely his own.
His position on the pitch and his knowledge of the game very high, and then he played in Spain, in England and in Germany, and he was coached by Guardiola in Bayern, by myself in Real Madrid, by Ancelotti in Real Madrid, by Benitez in Liverpool. If you put all this together, I think Xabi has conditions to be a very good coach.
While Thomas Tuchel grew up under the shadow of Jurgen Klopp, Erik ten Hag tried to replicate the source code of Pep Guardiola, and even Pep himself inherited the legacy of the saintly Johan Cruyff. Xabi Alonso possessed a privilege unlike anything football had ever seen. He learned from all four of the greatest minds of the modern era. Alonso's philosophy is not a borrowed product or a cheap imitation. It is the ultimate fusion, the miracle created when you throw Guardiola's positional intelligence, Mourinho's armoured defensive structure, and Ancelotti's mastery of human management into one laboratory and let them collide and evolve for 15 years. Alonso is not merely a strategist, he is a living PhD in football. And he did not prove that degree in a lecture hall. He shattered every limit in over 160 years of German football history with one unprecedented season. In October 2022, Bayer Leverkusen hit rock bottom, buried in 17th place in the Bundesliga table, a position where one more disastrous week could have dragged them into relegation, and a broken team so lifeless that even their most loyal supporters no longer had the courage to watch the highlights. Right in the middle of that storm, Xabi Alonso arrived. Without panic, without theatrics, he calmly took over the hottest seat in football as if he had prepared for that moment his entire life. By the end of the 2022-23 season, Leverkusen completed a stunning turnaround, finishing 6th and securing Europa League football through a completely rebuilt tactical system.
When the Spanish legend took over the West German club in October, they were sitting on a 17th place, direct relegation spot with only 5 points in 8 games. A good squad on paper, but nobody was performing. And then you bring in an unproven manager like Alonso? He had never managed a professional team, but it paid off big time. His passion and enthusiasm completely transformed Leverkusen. Also helped by the return of wonderkid Florian Wirtz, Alonso got 38 points in 19 Bundesliga games. And also managed to take the club into the Europa League quarterfinals. They've won 7 games in a row now, and for the first time this season finish a match day on a European spot. So in his first ever professional job, Xabi Alonso could be taking Leverkusen from a relegation spot to top 4 UCL next season and even into the Europa League final.
But that was only the beginning. Entering the 2023-24 campaign, Alonso officially rewrote history, transforming Leverkusen into an invincible Bundesliga champion across all 34 matches, completing a domestic double with the DFB Pokal, and setting an untouchable milestone of 51 consecutive unbeaten matches, the longest unbeaten streak in German football history.
And here we go. The Meisterschale in Leverkusen's hands for the first time. Bayer Leverkusen unbeaten across the new territory for a club in the top flight of German football.
Feels great because I have the feeling that this is not just for us. This is for so many people that have been chasing this dream for so many years. It's so great to bring success and to be part of this success with this team.
The only blemish in that perfect journey came against Atalanta BC in the Europa League final, where Bayer Leverkusen collapsed in a brutal 3-0 defeat to the Italian side.
Atalanta take the lead. He scored again. Ademola Lookman. Oh, what a way to complete the first hat and put a trophy.
Atalanta's greatest night. Gasparini has brought glory to the goddess. Their first European trophy. History made in Dublin. A hat-trick for Ademola Lookman. Beyond special. Their 61-year wait for major silverware over, and they've beaten the previously invincible to achieve it. Leverkusen's incredible run is over, finally beat.
Europa League winners 2024, Atalanta.
However, this is the most important chapter, the priceless detail most people ignore, yet the golden key explaining why Chelsea should be celebrating Alonso is not just a trophy hunter, he is an architect of human evolution on the pitch. Under his guidance, Florian Wirtz evolved from a promising wonder kid into the best player in Germany with a valuation exceeding 100 million euros. Alejandro Grimaldo transformed from an overlooked left-back at Benfica into one of the finest wing-backs in Europe. And Victor Boniface, once an unknown striker from Belgium's second division, was elevated by Alonso into the conversation among Europe's elite forwards. That is the true definition of a world-class strategist. Not someone who simply chooses the best pieces, but someone who forges a winning machine out of the pieces already available. Which leads to a terrifying question. If Alonso could create miracles at Leverkusen, a crumbling club sitting 17th and ignored by the world, then what happens when he gains full control over treasures like Cole Palmer, Moises Caicedo, and Esteban Willian?
You respect the manager a lot and you want him to be manager, and can he be involved in terms of players coming in and players leaving? Because usually it's the hierarchy at Chelsea that do that, but I think now that says a lot, that they respect Xabi Alonso, and they've basically said the ball's in your court, go and win us the Premier League or make us challenge next season or bring us a trophy to the football club. And I think you do that. I think Chelsea have got themselves a really bright manager.
First, however, we must confront an uncomfortable truth. Most of the football world completely misunderstands Xabi Alonso. The historical turning point arrived in June 2025 when Real Madrid officially appointed Xabi Alonso, igniting one of the most anticipated managerial unveilings since Pep Guardiola first stepped into Bayern Munich. That blockbuster appointment immediately burned away all doubt with a dreamlike start of 13 devastating victories in the first 14 La Liga matches. But then came the El Clasico earthquake in October, the moment everything changed. Alonso made a tactical gamble by moving Vinicius Jr. away from his natural left flank role, directly igniting the fury of the Brazilian superstar. A fracture that extended far beyond the pitch itself.
Yeah, well, that situation's been stalled for a long time, Dan, and we know this situation between Vinicius and Alonso in particular, it's been the case since the summer. It started in the summer when Alonso came in, going back to the Club World Cup. Around that time, Vinny's camp started to feel that the player wasn't the kind of player that the coach was particularly enamoured with, and that's continued every time he's been on the bench, and he's been benched multiple times by Alonso so far this season, something that never happened really under Carlo Ancelotti. When Vinny was fit, he played. He was, untouchable under that regime, and that's no longer the case. And like I say, it's been brewing now for months, and certainly there are growing reports here that he's not the only one. This situation between Xabi Alonso and the dressing room, something that Alonso denied after the Elche game. He said, no, the connection between me and the players is improving, it's getting better and better. It doesn't look like that's the case.
The conflict had actually been simmering since the pre-season tour in the United States, where Xabi Alonso attempted to launch a cultural revolution inside the club. He imposed strict military-like discipline with harsh punctuality rules, sealed off training areas from outside influence, and demanded an extreme level of tactical discipline. Minimum standards any healthy club, but a fatal spark inside a kingdom built on pampering superstars like Real Madrid. But this was not a normal football club. This was Real Madrid, where diva are not disciplined, they are protected. The domino effect exploded quickly when Bellingham and Camavinga also began openly expressing frustration, officially dragging the Real Madrid dressing room into a deeply divided civil war. The consequences immediately appeared on the scoreboard. A humiliating 2-5 collapse against Atletico Madrid, a shameful 0-2 defeat at the Bernabeu against Celta de Vigo, and ultimately elimination from the Champions League. However, this is the core data you are forced to analyse. Statistically, Alonso was still averaging 24 points per game in La Liga. By the time Real Madrid decided to sack him in January 2026, they were only 3 points behind Barcelona, almost identical form to Hansi Flick, who was being celebrated by the media as the saviour of Catalonia. So what was the difference? Flick had a squad ready to run through walls for him. Alonso was dealing with players secretly sabotaging his reign. And in the ultimate power struggle, when Alonso needed Florentino Perez to use his authority to restore order against the ego of Vinicius Jr., the powerful Real Madrid president chose to stay silent.
It's Xabi Alonso comes in, but he wasn't picked by Florentino. He wasn't his first choice. And then it's Xabi Alonso trying to impregnate his style, trying to impose his will, and being undermined by Florentino. You substitute, whether it was right or wrong, a player like Vinny Jr., and he comes off bitching and moaning, and then he apologizes to everybody but the manager. And he is backed by Florentino and by the board. And then you see them pick the side of the footballers. And then you see a captain, team captain like Valverde, who refuses to play right back for Xabi Alonso, who refuses to go into a game, Champions League against Olympiacos, for Xabi Alonso. And then it's Jude Bellingham. And then it's Kylian Mbappe choosing which and when he plays and what type of game he plays in. He's more concentrated on the individual performances and the stats that go with the individual performances than being ready for the long stretch. And it's this player here and that player there. And
the moment Real Madrid's board chose to protect brand value instead of backing their strategist, they officially stripped Alonso of control over the dressing room. Every player in the squad immediately understood the message. The power struggle was decided from that exact moment, not on the pitch, but inside Florentino Perez's office. And this is the clearest evidence of that division. When the sacking was announced, Kylian Mbappe, the superstar who scored 24 La Liga goals under Alonso's system and the only player truly committed to his philosophy, was the only one who publicly posted farewell message. Meanwhile, Vinicius, Bellingham, absolute silence from the most powerful egos in the dressing room.
And we all felt that Alonso was going to come in and it was going to be fresh and it was going to be different and it was going to be vibrant and dynamic, and it was the opposite. And I think it was the opposite, not because he didn't want that, but I think it was the opposite because he got a group of players, and maybe I'm not painting them all with this brush, but it certainly looks like a lot of them have almost, whilst not maybe verbally have said anything, but are thinking to themselves, this is how we do things at Real Madrid, this is what's worked for us, and we're not taking on board what you want.
When the club's top scorer is the only player thanking the manager, who was just fired, the question of who the real cancer cells inside the dressing room are suddenly answers itself. The reality is that Real Madrid did not sack a bad coach, they sacked a tactical genius who refused to bow down to football divas. And Chelsea have just acquired that man, an upgraded version carrying every painful lesson imaginable, yet with his philosophy and identity completely intact. Because the only thing Alonso carried away from Madrid was not psychological trauma. It was absolute clarity about the mistakes he is determined never to repeat in the next chapter of his career. Look at Chelsea's current roster, and you will see a squad unbelievably young in profile. Cole Palmer, Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, new signing Estevao William, and Pedro Neto together form a core with an average age under 25. This is not a dressing room that needs a babysitter to manage superstar egos. This is a raw mine waiting for a master architect to unleash its full potential. And when Alonso's iconic 3-4-3 system from Leverkusen is placed onto this squad, every piece suddenly fits perfectly. Malo Gusto possesses every quality required to become the ideal right wing back: explosive speed, elite technical ability, and devastating flank penetration, the exact blueprint Alonso craved. On the opposite side, Marc Cucurella is the perfect answer for the left wing-back role. Remember how Alonso transformed Alejandro Grimaldo from an ordinary player at SL Benfica into one of Europe's best wing-backs. Now Alonso has Cucurella in his hands, a player whose overall profile may actually surpass Grimaldo's at that same stage. But beyond every tactical concept or formation board, the core value Chelsea are giving Alonso is the one thing he never truly had at Real Madrid: supreme authority. At Stamford Bridge, Alonso will hold the position of a true manager, not merely a head coach restricted to training sessions.
And I think it's an absolute coup for Chelsea to get him. I think is absolutely an incredible piece of business because he was very highly sought after. A lot of big clubs out there looking for a big manager, and to get him through the door makes you think that Chelsea are willing to offer him a lot. They're willing to put things in favour of him to go forward and hope. Well, not for me, but Chelsea, they would like to think they learned from the mistakes in the past with the managers, and if he's coming in, they're going to give him a lot of responsibility to take this group forward.
You need the senior pros, like a Gary was back in the day. So for me, getting Xabi Alonso gets that instant respect of what he's done as a player, but also what Stephen says as a manager. He doesn't need this. He doesn't need it unless it's right for him. So he is now a manager, not a head coach.
I was going to ask.
And for me, that makes a big, big difference. It's a massive statement.
Alonso's arrival promises to trigger insane individual leaps across the entire Stamford Bridge pitch. Cole Palmer, already a genius, could evolve into one of the top 3 attacking midfielders on the planet inside a positional play system with clearly defined roles. In midfield, Moises Caicedo possesses the exact skill set designed to dominate a double pivot inside a 3 centre-back structure. Meanwhile, Enzo Fernandez, a player who has struggled because of the lack of a clearly defined role, may finally find the perfect mentor in Alonso, one of the greatest deep-lying playmakers in football history. In attack, just look at how Alonso transformed Florian Wirtz into a monster to imagine what could soon happen with Astavo Willian, the Brazilian wonderkid who has just arrived at the club. It is a breathtaking vision of the future, but football has never been built on promises, and Chelsea's chaotic history over recent years is a brutal reminder that potential has never guaranteed success at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea are a luxurious, ambitious football machine, but also one of the most ruthless managerial grinders in world football. Just look at the facts. Enzo Maresca delivered the Conference League title, won the Club World Cup, brought the club back into the Champions League, yet was still sacked simply for publicly criticising the medical department. Liam Rosenior signed a 6.5-year contract only to survive a mere 106 days. Even at executive level, Chelsea currently operate with a 5-man sporting director structure. That level of bureaucracy is a massive cultural shock for Alonso, who just left the streamlined and clearly defined hierarchy at Leverkusen.
It's great Alonso coming in. Does he have any power? Does he have any say in the transfers? Is he allowed to pick the lineup? Is he allowed to decide how long players are allowed to play? Is that the medical team's decision? Do we even have money to give him? You know, and these are the questions that I want answers to. I mean, I know that we're owned by private equity and they're not going to overspend. So we've already spent over 2 billion. I don't think there's a lot of money left, so I think Alonso has to work with what he has. It's a great manager, but he's not working with a great ownership, so that's my real concern.
On top of that, enormous squad uncertainties still surround Stamford Bridge. Will Chelsea be able to keep a genius like Cole Palmer amid aggressive interest from Real Madrid and Manchester City? What will happen to the future of Enzo Fernandez with Europe's giants circling around him? And can new signing João Pedro truly adapt to the new tactical system? But above all, the core problem remains the enormous gap between promises and reality in West London. If Chelsea's 5-man sporting director group begins interfering with and overruling Alonso's decisions the same way they treated Maresca, history will absolutely repeat itself. Now, the ultimate question surrounding this new chapter is not whether Alonso is good enough to lead Chelsea. It is whether Chelsea are mature enough to deserve someone of Alonso's magnitude.
If Alonso is given these players and told, go and compete, Chelsea are not going anywhere. They are going to need to massively invest again into this squad. But this time, not 20-year-olds, not 19-year-olds from Brazil. It needs to be established players who are either in their prime or have done things in the game already. Because this team needs surgery, in my opinion. Get about 4 or 5 starters into this team and let's see what Chelsea can do. But you're only as good as your players. Managers are not magicians, and we really, really need to drum that in.
The truth is that Xabi Alonso did not fail at the Bernabeu. He was betrayed by diver egos refusing to submit to discipline, by a board prioritising commercial value over the manager, and by a home that once represented greatness but no longer matched his stature. Chelsea have just picked up that priceless diamond from the ashes of Real Madrid. And now, and this if could define the entire summer, Todd Boehly and his partners truly give Alonso supreme authority, protect his control, and build a civilised dressing room instead of a chaotic circus. Then, within the next 2 to 3 years, Chelsea will become the most terrifying force in the Premier League, not through money, but through tactical domination. Arsenal have Mikel Arteta, Liverpool have Arne Slot, while Manchester City are struggling through the post-Guardiola transition era. But Chelsea, they possess Xabi Alonso, the man whose DNA was programmed by all the greatest minds in football history. The professor has officially walked through the doors of Stamford Bridge. Alonso's lesson begins now. From winning the Conference League,
Chelsea are the 2025 Conference League winners.
And the Club World Cup.
For FIFA Club World Cup champions.
Chelsea fans were expecting a strong comeback season and for the Blues to reclaim their place among the elite. But 9 months later, they're nothing more than a circus.
Se qualifie, le champion d'Europe sera bien au rendez-vous.
You embarrassment of a football team, man. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this.
7 consecutive games in the league without a single win. 5 straight matches without scoring a single goal. The last time this happened was back in 1912, the same year the Titanic sank.
Coincidence? I think not! Absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, indeed.
Horrendous run of results.
Let's just take you through how bad it is. 5 straight Premier League losses for the first time since 1993. 5 straight losses without scoring since 1912. They've lost 7 or 8 games in all competition, failing to score in 6 of them. That lone winner was, of course, against third-tier Port Vale in the FA Cup. More Premier League losses under Senior this season than under Maresca.
Billions spent. Young stars everywhere. But what they're showing right now is totally opposite. The football is inconsistent, the identity is gone, and now they might not even qualify for Europe competition.
Can we potentially get a decent game of football? Can we potentially get a decent performance? Can we potentially narrowly win? Can we at least get... Can we stop the rot? No. Absolutely disgraceful.
This team looks like they don't know how to do anything except spend money. Yes, it sounds exactly like some other club from the same city. At the start of the 2025-26 season, Chelsea went into it with everything looking perfect. They had finished the previous season in 4th place in the Premier League, enough to return to the Champions League for the first time in 2 years. In May 2025, they crushed Real Betis 4-1 to win the Conference League, and not long after that, they beat PSG 3-0 in the Club World Cup final, 3-0.
Had the composure to turn. Cole Palmer! For Palmer! Superb! Work needed in that regard. Palmer, Gian Pedro, it's 3, and Chelsea are running away.
Yes, PSG, the team that had just won the Champions League, got beaten by a Conference League winner, the same PSG that would later destroy Chelsea 8-2 in the Champions League. But we'll get to that later. What I'm saying is, Chelsea did not go into this season as underdogs. They went in with trophies in hand, Champions League football on the schedule, and the most expensive squad on the planet. On paper, everything looked beautiful. The problem is, football isn't played on paper. The season started off decently. Chelsea won a lot of matches, and Cole Palmer was still Cole Palmer, the only guy at the club who actually seems to know where the ball should go. But as 2025 came to a close, cracks started to appear in their form. Just 1 win in their last 7 Premier League games. And trust me, if you think the scorelines look bad, what's actually happening behind the scenes is even worse.
Breaking news, Enzo Maresca and Chelsea could part ways in the next hours or days, but the relationship is really deteriorating between the English club and the Italian manager. So keep an eye on this situation, very, very, very tense. The draw against Bournemouth, Enzo Maresca didn't do any press conference. The situation was already tense at that time between the manager and the club, and also many problems. In the recent months, starting over the summer transfer window, Maresca wanted a new centre-back. When Levi Colwill suffered an ACL injury, Chelsea decided not to proceed. The club had different ideas. Maresca had his own ideas, so complicated months.
Right on January 1st, 2026, while everyone was still busy eating their New Year's cake and watching fireworks, Chelsea dropped a bomb. Happy New Year! Enzo Maresca had officially been sacked. Unbelievable, right? We're talking about the guy who had just brought them back to the Champions League and led them to glory in the Conference League. Yet he got the sack on the very first day of the year.
When you look to them as if you're looking for an escape possibly elsewhere, or even trying to use it as a bit of a blackmail for a new contract, it's only going to end up one way. Unless that is, your results are so stratospherically good that the board are in a bit of a juxtaposition where they can't be seen to be letting them go, but 2 wins in 9 in their recent form suggests otherwise. And when you're sort of more or less...
On the first day of the new year, what a fantastic way to start 2026. Now the question was, who do Chelsea bring in next? This is Stamford Bridge. This is the Champions League. You need a big name, someone with experience, someone who commands respect the moment his name is mentioned in the dressing room. And they bring you Liam Rosenior.
Liam, first of all, welcome to Chelsea. Huge congratulations. How are you feeling sitting here as Chelsea head coach?
Proud, excited, can't wait to start. It's a lot of hard work in my life to get to this point. But as I said to the players this afternoon, getting to this club is one thing, but I need to win at this amazing football club with these players, with the staff, and that's what my focus is on. When I first heard about the fact that Chelsea Football Club were interested in me to be the head coach, it was one of the proudest days of my life. And now I'm sat here, I've met the staff, I've met the players. It's a day that myself and my family will never forget.
A coach who had just been sacked by Hull City, a championship side back in 2024. A guy who had spent just over a year managing Strasbourg, Chelsea's sister club in the BlueCo multi-club empire. Let's be honest here, guys. This was never purely a football decision. This was a corporate, internal decision.
But I don't think it helps when the fans are listening to a manager, and this has been from day one, sort of talk and address the media in the way that he does, with the sort of rhetoric that he uses, and obviously the actions with the notes. And there's been so many sort of, I think there's been a lot of stuff that could easily turn the dressing room, not against him, but almost in a mocking way, when they're listening to what he's saying and when they're watching what he does in the technical area. And I don't know what goes on in the training ground, but when I look at some of the things that he says and does, it just doesn't seem right to me.
Aura, that's the most expensive word when it comes to managing at Stamford Bridge. And Rosenior, and to be fair, it's not really his fault. Simply never had that aura. 258 days. That's the average time each Chelsea manager has lasted under BlueCo before getting replaced. Not a season, not a year. 258 days. Let me put that into perspective for you. That's enough time for you to binge watch the entire Breaking Bad series twice, and boom, Chelsea have already got a new coach. The way they're running things, it doesn't feel like they're managing a historic giant football club. It feels like they're debugging a video game. Test, fail, patch, delete, and start all over again. An endless, unstable loop. Rosenior took over the hot seat in January, and by March, Chelsea stepped into the Champions League round of 16 to face the giant PSG. This was supposed to be the moment that defined the season, but unfortunately, it became a page in history that no Chelsea fan wants to remember. First leg in Paris was a complete nightmare. Chelsea got absolutely destroyed 5-2.
Oh, that's a mistake from Jurgensen. He's giving it away, and a chance for Vitinha now to lob the goalkeeper. Oh no! Alien trying to find a route to goal. Oh, and didn't he do that? He's escaping. Nuno Mendes is at the far post. It's ending towards Kvaratskhelia. He's got under the goalkeeper, and in it's 5-2.
Yes, twice they dragged the game back to level terms, yet every single time hope started to flicker, PSG hit them with a deadly counter-attack and regained the lead. And the ending was just brutal. In the final minutes, goalkeeper Jorgensen passed the ball straight into the feet of substitute Kvaratskhelia, who then had gifted Chelsea 2 goals in just 10 minutes. Final score 5-2. Chelsea trudged back from Paris to London.
I thought Chelsea for long periods of time today were better than PSG. I do believe that 5-2, and I agree with Jurgen on that, is that 5-2 doesn't really paint a clear picture as to what this game was and how good Chelsea was for long periods of time. Now, where I agree with Craig is that their management of the game late in the match was disorganized at best, but embarrassing to some degree as well.
The second leg at Stamford Bridge on March 17th. Just 6 minutes in, centre-back Mamadou Sarr received a completely normal long ball. Kvaratskhelia walks straight past him and scored. 0-1 after 6 minutes. 8 minutes later, Barcola added the second with a strike from outside the box. 0-2 after just 14 minutes. 8-2 on aggregate. This was the same club that had beaten this very PSG 3-0 just 9 months earlier. No one came out of that tie unscathed. But who got hurt the most? It wasn't the players, it wasn't the manager, it was the big question everyone started asking. What the hell is actually going on inside this football club? After that humiliating 8-2 defeat to PSG, Chelsea still had plenty of Premier League games left, A chance to regain form, regain identity, and remind everyone they actually knew how to play football. Instead, they did this: 0 goals in 5 consecutive matches. This is a team with Cole Palmer, the guy who'd been scoring and assisting all season. With Enzo Fernandez, a World Cup winner. With Joe Pedro, signed for big money from Brighton. With Pedro Neto, one of the fastest wingers in the Premier League. And yet, not a single goal in 5 games.
This team's getting worse. I said against City, it was men against boys. Then the following week, it was Manchester United last weekend, and they were awful again. They get beat 1-0 against a depleted Manchester United side. And then today against Brighton away, it was men against boys again.
The final night of that nightmare run was a 3-0 defeat at Brighton on April 21st. Chelsea didn't have a single shot on target the entire match. They didn't make a single tackle in the first 32 minutes. And up in the Amex stands, the Chelsea fans, the ones who paid their own money to travel and support the team, started chanting for their own manager to be sacked.
In the pride that you should have in wearing this shirt, that was unacceptable. I've defended the players. And I am accountable. I've always said that. But after tonight, I think the players as well need to have a look in the mirror for what they put in. And talk about tactics. Tactics come after the basics. Having more courage to play, winning duels, winning headers, tackles, conceding terrible goals. That was an unacceptable performance tonight. Judging off that performance, it looks that way. I won't lie. That was unacceptable. I don't feel there's a disconnect between me and the players. We work very closely with them in training, individual meetings, team meetings, unit meetings. We are giving everything to the players. There is a lack of spirit, lack of belief that can create that perspective that makes it look a certain way. And I can't argue with that at the moment because the run we're on is unacceptable, and that performance definitely was as well. No, I think for the supporters, I understand their frustration, and it's my job as the head coach and the manager of the football club. The buck stops with me. I have thick skin, and I understand why the fans are frustrated. I'm frustrated with the performances.
And the very next day, Chelsea announced the sacking of Rosenior after just 106 days. Quite short, but it still can't be shorter than the time it takes you to drop a like and subscribe to my channel. It would be great if you did that. Now let's talk about something most people in the comments are missing. It's not about which manager got sacked or how many goals they conceded. The real question is, why does this body keep getting sick no matter who the doctor is? Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture, how the owner's bottomless pockets are tearing this club apart. Todd Bowley and BlueCo took over Chelsea in 2022, and from day one, they started spending money like tomorrow would never come. The total spent on transfers since then has hit the £2 billion mark. £2 billion, guys. You heard that right. With that kind of money, you could buy an entire small country. Or you could buy Chelsea, only to painfully realise that money doesn't automatically turn into a proper system or structure. The problem isn't just the money. The problem is there's no identity. Chelsea have 0 consistent direction. They hoard dozens of young players from all over the world. Send them on loan, recall them. Send them out again, recall them again. The way they operate looks more like a global human resources distribution centre than a football club.
I mean, the owners are getting it really badly wrong there. Let's be really clear. I said at the time, and they've got a group of talented players, they've got young sporting directors in respect of sort of what will be experience relating to Europe. You've got an ownership that's relatively young in respect of ownership that sort of Chelsea Football Club, 2 or 3 years in. These 6-year, 8-year agreements that you see, it's almost laughable from the start, whether it be for a manager or a player. The owners haven't got a clue what they're doing.
A manager needs time. Not a few weeks, not a few months, real time to install a playing style, build trust with the players, and create a culture. In the last 4 years, Chelsea have sacked 5 permanent managers with an average tenure of just 258 days each. Every time they sack someone, everything resets to 0. Players have to learn a new system. Team cohesion gets destroyed. And when the next manager eventually leaves, the whole process repeats itself. Meanwhile, look at Brighton, the team that beat Chelsea 3-0 in Rosenier's final game. At one point this season, Brighton had won just one of their last 13 matches. 1 in 13. Chairman Tony Bloom didn't sack the manager. He stayed patient and kept faith. And Brighton recovered. winning 4 of their next 5 games, pushing for European spots, and then putting 3 more past Chelsea as if to remind everyone of the difference between the two management philosophies. And now we come to the part that even Chelsea's biggest defenders find hard to justify. Enzo Fernandez, the key midfielder, World Cup winner with Argentina, and often the team captain, was internally suspended mid-season. The reason, in an interview while away on international duty, he subtly hinted at being open to leaving. He didn't even say it outright, just an answer that lacked full commitment. Chelsea's response was to suspend him.
Cucurella and Fernandez, experienced players, the only probably 2 experienced players that Chelsea have got, stitching him up in the last few weeks by calling out the fact that they basically love Maresca. Well, they weren't doing that well under him.
The 2 most senior players in the dressing room are openly telling the press that they miss the previous manager, while the current boss is desperately trying to keep the sinking ship afloat. A football team works like a body. When the members aren't pulling in the same direction, when they're not on the same page, all tactics become pointless. Chelsea, in the second half of this season, weren't a team. They were just 20-something individuals wearing the same shirt. Chelsea have reached the final of the FA Cup. They beat Leeds United in the semi-final at Wembley and will face Manchester City in the showpiece. And this match matters more than just a trophy. Because the FA Cup winners, if they haven't secured a European spot through the league, will qualify for the Europa League next season. Chelsea are currently sitting 9th in the table with a big gap to the top 5. The European route via the Premier League is almost gone. The FA Cup is the last lifeboat left. 1 match, 90 minutes, Wembley. Winning the FA Cup won't erase everything that's happened this season, but it can buy them more time. And sometimes in football, time is the only thing you really need. Chelsea at the end of the 2025-26 season is a sad story of the kind football loves to create. Not sad because they lack money. Not sad because they lack talent. But sad because they lack something you simply can't buy. Structure, clear direction, and patience. £2 billion spent, 5 managers sacked, 8 different people in the hot seat in 4 years. And now they're already waiting to see who's next. While Callum McFarlane is guiding the final stretch of the season like a captain thrown onto the bridge after the ship has already hit the iceberg. The question isn't who the next manager will be. The real question is, this time, will they actually let him do his job? The history of the last 4 years says no, but football has a way of keeping people hopeful, even Chelsea fans. If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.